Hello everyone and welcome back to the SteemTrail Gaming News. Today is the 31st of May 2018. My name is Kralizec and I will be your host for the evening. Today we are going to talk about two separate topics. We're going to first talk about the Atari VCS, aka the Ataribox, which is now available for backing on Indiegogo. And secondly, we're going to take a look at an Australian publicly available TV station that is going to start showing esports live. But let's begin with the Atari VCS, which means the Atari Video Computer System, which is a retro console that is now available for backing and subsequently for a pre-order on Indiegogo. You may have heard of this console. We actually talked about it a few months ago when it was first announced, and my original opinion still stands. Who the heck is this aimed for? But it seems that at least 81,081 backers as of this moment particularly all are the target audience, and they have pledged over $2 million towards this project, and that is 2,134% of the original $100,000 goal set by Atari. So what exactly is the Atari VCS? It's sort of a small form computer running a specialized version of Linux on which you can play old games. And while that might sound like a decent thing, I don't really think this will be a huge commercial hit. I think it will get built and the people who will get it will enjoy it probably, but I don't think it will sell much outside of the community of the backers already. My estimate is something around 50,000 units sold all around the world, maybe 100,000 altogether. Because when you take a closer look at the Atari VCS, you will actually realize that it is nothing that special. So let's begin by taking a look at the specs of the Atari VCS. So it comes with an AMD A2 Bristol Ridge CPU, which is a 4-core CPU that runs somewhere around 3 to 3.5 gigahertz. We really don't know the exact specs. When I searched for the AMD A10, there are two versions of it, one that runs at 3 gigahertz and one that runs at 3.5 gigahertz. It's a really low-end CPU. But when it comes to what the console is meant to do, I guess that's okay. I'm really not bothered by the fact that it uses a really low-end CPU. Actually, when I mean low-end, I mean really low-end. It's less than $100 for a CPU. And when we're talking about the numbers these people want to go into, it's going to be like $50 for this thing. The more important feature here is the graphics unit, the GPU, which will be an AMD Radeon R7, which again is a very low-end GPU, and it will probably not struggle with the games that will come with the system, and it should handle most 2D games fine, but if you want to throw anything modern at it, it will struggle. And when I mean struggle, I mean it will struggle to keep the game at least 30 FPS at HD, and HD has just 720p resolutions. That's not really anything most people would be looking for. It also comes with 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is insanely low these days. Cell phones have sometimes more than that. And it comes with 32 gigabytes of eMMC storage, which again is pretty low, though it has the capacity to put in external hard drives or SD cards to improve on that particular thing. And it uses a custom version of Ubuntu that is stylized, well, around Atari. So as you can see, this really aren't impressive specs. And the prices for which it will be sold are, well, actually pretty high. If you want to go for the collector's edition, that one is available at the moment for $299 plus shipping, though it does include the console and a joystick. So yeah, the joystick itself is $29, so let's say $270. That's pretty expensive for what the console can actually do. You know, that's the price of a Switch almost. So that's not particularly great. On top of that, if you want to go with an Atari modern controller, on top of that, you need to shell out the additional $49, which, man, that's an expensive price for who knows what quality gamepad. If you want to go for the combo of a joystick and controller, you need to shell out $59. And then there are several variants of the console itself. The cheapest one is at $200. That is the Atari VCS Onyx Early Bird. So if you want it at this price, you need to get it right now. Otherwise, it will be available for $250. Then there is the Onyx Plus joystick, which is $229. Otherwise, it will be $279. If you want to go for the Onyx version itself, not the early bird, then yeah, it's $250. And if you want to go for an all-in bundle where you get the console, where you get the joystick and the gamepad, not in the collector's edition, it's $319. And if you're not an early bird and you will come late to the deal, and if you want to go for the collector's edition, which is the one that has actual wood incorporated into the console, it's $339. That is really expensive. And yeah, it's just absurdly expensive, to be honest. Obviously, the console itself does come with a few extra features. It does come with 100 plus classic Atari games, including some classics like Pong, Missile Command, Asteroids, but those aren't really games that are hard to make, and there are many of their clones, sometimes even better than them. They also have some partners that have promised to create games for them, like Eden, Code Mystics, Play Magic, Monster, Invisio, Kung Fu Factory. And the system itself, the Ubuntu version, is going to be in a classic Atari, well, user experience. The probably most interesting thing about this is the fact that from the box, it does come with support for your own peripherals. It does come for support with Bluetooth and USB controllers, mouse and keyboard, external storage, webcams, microphones, external speakers, and headphones. So that is probably the most interesting thing. And the fact that it's also Linux based means that the Steam store will be available on this console. But because of the low specs of the console, I don't really think it will be capable of playing anything modern. Again, the GPU is insanely bad in it. Like, to give you an example, it will run Shadow of Mordor, the 2014 game, at 720p at low details, and it will struggle to keep it at 30 FPS. And that's a 4-year-old game. And if you want to play something more modern on it, it just gets you out of luck. So who is this really aimed for? It's for people who are looking for that nostalgic feeling. It's really not aimed at anybody else. It's aimed for the people who want that classical Atari experience. They maybe want to show their kids the games they played when they were young. Or maybe even their grandchildren these days, you know. Us gamers are actually getting pretty old. And the second thing for which I can foresee this being used for is as a home entertainment system. Because for that, it actually does have some decent specs, and you can do some side gaming with this. But the problem I have then is the fact that you could build a small form computer with very similar specs, probably even better, for less money. Yes, the box in which it is would probably not be as pretty as wood on the actual box, and you would not get that nostalgic feeling alongside with it, but you would get to save money. And let's be honest, money is the driving force behind the vast majority of consumer opinions and decisions. So, will it sell? Yes. Yes, it will sell enough to make a profit. Of that, I am reasonably sure. Will it sell enough to warrant a second upgraded version? Here, I am less sure. Here, I'm pretty skeptical. I don't think it will sell enough among the general mainstream public to warrant an upgraded version to come sometime in the future. This is just Atari trying to get in on that nostalgia and cash on it as soon as they can. And, well, getting $2 million is a decent sum of money to get. And let's say they probably get a little bit extra from each console that gets sold above this number. Yeah, they're going to make a decent chunk of money that can maybe be shoved into some other more profitable, more modern projects. But really, it's just a nostalgia thing. It's not something spectacular, and if you're not a huge Atari fan, I would not recommend you buying this. I will certainly not be getting this, because what's the point? I have a pretty powerful computer. Honestly, my cell phone has a pretty similar amount of power these days, and since this should come out in about July 2019, who knows what will happen to hardware upon that point. The new generation of NVIDIA graphics is coming, a new generation of AMD processors is coming, a new generation of AMD graphics is coming, and, well, they will likely be much more powerful than this. And if you do have the patience to build a small form computer that would be passively cool, that would actually look cool, I think you can have much better results than Atari. And getting the Linux on there, well, that just seems like a fairly obvious thing to do anyway. Okay, let's move on from the Atari, and let's move on to Australia for a moment, as we have big news for Australian esports. As Gfinity Esports Australia has announced a partnership with Network 10 to show the 2018 Gfinity Elite Series Australia League on the completely free TV in the country. If you don't know, the programming will kick off in June with Rocket League tournaments, which I find to be a great choice. Not only because Rocket League is the game for fun for me, but also I think it is the most watchable esports for people who aren't gamers at the same time. Because let's say Dota. Dota is really hard to understand if you don't know what the characters are doing. There are so many new concepts that need to be explained to you. Yes, Counter-Strike is somewhat watchable, but if you aren't a player yourself, it's not that great. The same goes for StarCraft, but Rocket League is just football or soccer for you Americans watching, and that is the most viewed sports on the planet. If I remember correctly, there were like 2 billion people tuning in to watch last year's the last World Championship, and those numbers are insane. That means 1/4 of the planet is watching that particular sport. So an insane amount of people do actually know the rules of football or soccer again, and well, Rocket League follows those rules pretty easily. You know, there's a ball, you need to take the ball and put it into the goal, or the other team tries to put it into this goal, and that's really simple to follow. The bigger problem here might be, at least for the foreseeable future, a lack of really good commentators on the sport. People who can actually explain, like, oh look, he used his boost, which is this and this, to fly a little bit and push the ball a little up so he outplayed his opponent, that will be something that will be hard to push, for sure. But just watching the games, that is something that mainstream people can do. It's one of the few esports I can show to my grandparents and they will immediately understand what the point of it is. It's not like, again, Dota or even, let's say, Hearthstone. Hearthstone is super complex to watch for people outside of Hearthstone community. But Rocket League is perfect for this. So I love this. And if you do live in Australia and you do want to watch this, be sure to tune in on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. to Channel 1. And the competition itself, if you do want to go and watch it live, is taking place at the Esports Arena at Moore Park. Otherwise, you can just go to Twitch and watch Rocket League. But if you want to like show your parents or your grandparents what the whole esports or pro gaming community is all about, again, I do believe this is by far the best option to do it. So this is by far the best game to show them. And with that being said, that's going to be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please consider giving us a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribing to the channel. If you are watching on Steam, maybe you want to give us an upvote and follow the blog. Either way, be sure to leave a comment and be sure to tune in tomorrow for more gaming news, as we are your source of daily gaming news every single day. See you guys later with more gaming content.